A good intro song.
Got my workout at my desk workout.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Rossi, and I am the Media Alliance of Houston president. Welcome to our December webinar. Our December webinar is brought to you by Love Advertising. We would like to thank all of our corporate members, Odyssey, Brivik Media, Carlberg, Centro, Clear Channel, Effective, iHeart, KHOU, KIAH, KTRK, Love Advertising, and MMI Agency. Our 2022 membership renewal is underway. Emails have been sent out for January through June membership. If you have questions or are interested in becoming an MAH member, you can reach out to our VP of Membership, Avery Dominich, and her email is on the screen. One of the biggest benefits of becoming a member is that you get member rates for seats at our tables at Gala, which we are excited to continue announcing and talking about. Our 2022 Star Awards Gala will be on February 10th at the Post Oak Hotel. We're celebrating 70 years of Alliance of Women in Media. We'll be honoring Jay Sitta as our 2022 Silver Star recipient, and tickets are on sale now. So you can get more information on our website, and we hope to see you there. Additional Gala news, voting has started for Star Awards. Round 1 of voting has gone out and closes at 6 p.m. this Thursday. Every agency receives 10 votes and every media outlet receives 20 votes. Leadership from every company has selected their designated voters. So if you're a voter at your company and have not received your SurveyMonkey ballot, check your junk email first or reach out to me second if you feel like there's an error and you didn't receive your email. Final round of voting will begin next week. The finalists of each category will be notified and asked to submit an essay for out-of-market judges to read and score, which will contribute to the final overall score determining the winners of each award, and they will be announced at our Star Awards Gala. If you have any questions on how the voting process works, you can go to our website for more details. And while one of our purposes of Gala is to celebrate the hard work of our community, the other purpose is to raise money to invest in the future of our advertising community through scholarship. A big way that you can help to give back to our community and to help with Gala is by helping us come up with silent auction items. So if you have any items that you would like to contribute, please reach out to our VP of Fundraising, Stephanie Weaver McKee, and her email is here on the screen. We'll also put it in the chat as well. For those of you that are 3 years or less in the industry, or that are even interested in hearing more about this particular event, our December Making Access Happen will be with our very own Kelly Rodriguez, who is our Media Alliance parliamentarian, on December 16th. She will be talking about the history of Media Alliance of Houston and the importance of having a membership and different ways to get involved. So we really encourage you that if you're looking for more ways to get involved, to join in on this one. And Liz just put in the chat a form to sign up so that you can get more information on Making Access Happen. And our final announcement, on December 9th, AAF is having their Cheers with Peers from 6 to 9 p.m. at White Rhino, benefiting a Houston food bank, the Houston Food Bank. The first drink is free and there will be door prizes and drawings when you bring 2 non-perishable food items. So mark your calendars and join them on December 9th. And so now I am going to turn it over to Kelly Rodriguez, who is the Vice President of Media at Love Advertising and is the Media Alliance of Houston parliamentarian. And she will be speaking on behalf of our webinar sponsor, Love Advertising, and also introducing our speaker.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Hey, everybody. This is kind of a full circle moment for me, as one of my very first jobs right out of high school was to be a summer camp counselor at the YMCA on 249. So it's an honor that I get to now be here presenting to Steve and introducing him. As Love Advertising, again, I'm Kelly, VP of Media here at Love, and we are very honored to be the sponsor of this luncheon that features Stephen Ives, who is the CEO and president of the YMCA of Greater Houston. He's going to talk about being a nonprofit and how they've innovated and redefined their purpose through the last 2 years of COVID. Love and the YMCA began our partnership in 2019, right before the world changed. So imagine that right there at the beginning, and then everything swerved, as we like to say. For the past 2 years, we have navigated together to align the why with their purpose-driven mission. This year, Love won a silver medal for strategic excellence at the Jay Chiat Awards for the breakthrough work that we did with the YMCA on how we turned a membership into a mindset. And I know Steve's going to talk about that today. So I get to now introduce our speaker. Stephen Ives, a 2020 Houston Business Journal Most Admired CEO honoree, has more than 30 years of leadership in the YMCA movement and is recognized as a national leader in innovation and entrepreneurship, as well as for the prevention of child sexual abuse. The YMCA is among the largest in the country and provides many services with a special focus of empowering youth, creating healthier families, and fostering inclusion communities. The Y has 26 locations, I know near every single one of us here, which includes a resident camp and a refugee resettlement division, plus hundreds of additional program sites throughout the greater Houston area. Stephen has played an integral role in bringing the following milestones to the YMCA. He helped open the Houston's first Equity Innovation Center, powered by Reliant, to serve as a space for the community to combat inequalities in Houston. He distributed food and essential items to countless children, adults, and seniors during COVID, created partnerships which aid and foster social growth and youth outreach programs and camps for kids, worked to end isolation for seniors by creating group activities and social opportunities, and supports refugee resettlement services and leads a fight against human trafficking. All of that is really amazing. Steve and his wife, Lisa Collins, have 2 adult children. Oh, I guess they're not kids anymore, right? They're adults and daughters. And he carries an MBA from Northeastern University and a degree in speech communication from the University of Maine. In his free time, when he has it, he enjoys outdoor activities, long distance running, biking, and live music. So Steve, thank you so much for being our speaker today. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks so much, Kelly. And boy, I'm just thrilled to know that someone who started as a camp counselor became a parliamentarian. It's something that you tell me about, like the prestige of that role that you were playing. Thank you. Thanks so much for inviting me, and thanks everybody for joining us this morning. I'm just gonna take some liberties and walk you along the journey with me and tell you the story of a little bit about my background and that got me here, and then over the last couple of years, the experience that I have had, our Y has had, and our community has had, that really, for me, is quite extraordinary. I hope you'll find that the same or similar, and look forward to answering and respond to any questions or additional information you'd like to hear. So I'm a kid from Maine who started out as a social worker in the YMCA 34 years ago. My job was to work with street kids, and I was actually working with teen fathers, and I was on the path to become a licensed social worker. And then I found myself in management, and I've been in the CEO role now for 27 years, in my 4th Y now. That journey along the way has given me the opportunity to be part of a significant housing program that happened in Columbus, Ohio, as well as a number of other, as was mentioned before, innovations around social interaction and social impact. But I found myself here in Houston at the end of 2018, and as Kelly alluded to that we had entered into an initial partnership with Love Advertising around the end of 2019. In February of 2020, our board, we'd been working on this for quite some time, and it was part of the reason to partner with Love. Our board executed on and approved a strategic plan for the next 3 years. So this was February of 2020. The key priority, the one most important priority for that strategic plan was to elevate our brand. And here's why. All I heard from 2018 to February of 2020 from board members is, I am just tired of going to parties and going to events and talking about our international services work, or talking about our youth work, or talking about our human trafficking programming, and have people say, I had no idea why I did that. They said they would like to wipe that phrase from the vocabulary of Houstonians. It was a high task, but we had done some data analysis, and we'd done an initial brand survey. And in that survey, we asked a number of questions. I think the most important one to me and to us was, a blind question when asked, what's the organization doing the best job serving youth? What's the organization doing the best job serving families? And what's the best organization meeting the needs of the community? That last question, best organization meeting the needs of the community, in our initial survey, 3% of the respondents named the YMCA. We thought we were really good. We thought we were doing great work. We knew that we needed to elevate our brand. We didn't know how steep a climb there was and how much of an opportunity there was. Someone might say, well, 3%, who has 97%? The beauty of that study was it also told us that almost 50% of the respondents had no idea. They really didn't know, and they had no opinion yet. We thought there's a wide open space for us to begin to frame the opinions of and educate the perspective that people had, and add knowledge and a gut feeling or emotional connection with the Y and its mission and its purpose beyond what's typically known as the gym and swim. So we started on our strategy, and within 4 weeks, we had shut down all of our YMCAs. March 16th, I started that day driving to visit our local centers. I visited 5 or 6 of them. And, my question was, how are we doing with these new protocols? By the end of the day, the governor had made the announcement, and that night we announced that we were closing all of our YMCAs. For a couple of days, we sat in shock, not sitting still, but we were in shock, and really trying to unpack what does this mean for us? One of the things that was very clear for me was, and I called a few of my colleagues around the Y movement, I said, I think this is the one. I think this is the big event that is going to change us and change everything for the long term, if not forever. And I found that I was in short company in believing that, but I also had enough colleagues to reinforce my belief in that, as well as our own staff team, that this was something to begin taking action on, as if it's going to last a long time, as if it's not going to go away in 3 to 6 weeks, and we're going to get back to normal in a month or two. For the month of April, we returned $1 million of refunds to parents who had signed up for school-age childcare programs, and we saw the faucet turned off completely from monthly recurring income, both from school-age childcare and from our membership. We turned to the one thing that we had left. And I declared to our team, I said, everything is closed in terms of buildings, but we have one center open, and that's our website. And we spent a lot of time with Love and with our Brand X team. Essentially, we reorganized our whole organization. We had been organized to deliver programs through facilities and in schools, and now we had other work to be done. And so we created a Brand X pillar, and that vertical included people who had once been doing something else. See, we had laid off, or actually initially furloughed 2,700 people. We knew early on we needed to slow the costs of operations very quickly in order to respond to what was happening. That furlough move, I think, was one of the smartest things we did, because some of our other colleagues laid people off. And once you lay a person off, in order to bring them back, you got to rehire them. If they're on furlough, you can bring them back into service in some way or manner without having to go through the hiring process, at least for a period of time. So it gave us a little bit of window of time to evaluate what we were going to do over the next 3 to 6 to 9 months while we waited to see what would happen. We put into place a whole vertical around community impact, community outreach. And essentially the charge of that group was to determine how and then to execute on the way in which we respond in community to the current needs. We put a team to reimagine. And the whole idea was that we're going to both respond and reimagine how our why is going to be coming out of this. And then we're going to tell the story really well. We kept in place almost all of the resources we'd put in place in terms of staffing and spends around marketing. Because I saw in this a tremendous opportunity, as tragic and traumatic as this was, a tremendous opportunity to both do the right things, to be responsive to community, and then tell the story, make sure that the community knew what we were doing and how we were responding. Early in that process, we had a group that I had pulled together. It was interesting. I'm new to the Houston community, and I had asked the head of the food bank and the head of the Boys and Girls Club and United Way and others, like, okay, when's the central organization happen? And they kind of looked at me and said, well, we're not sure that that's a thing that really happens. And I suggested, wouldn't it be great if instead of making 7 calls once a week to each of you, that we got together once a week? And their response was, yeah, please make that happen. So we began every Monday having a 7 a.m. half-hour check-in, which was really just to say, what do you know today that you didn't know last week? What's your greatest problem you're facing right now? What are you learning about both the pandemic and how it's going to affect us and how you're responding? And so in the context of that meeting, Brian Green reported one day that his biggest problem was he couldn't hire fast enough. And my response was, my biggest problem is I just furloughed 2,700 people. They don't have any work to do. And as we talked briefly, got on the line shortly afterwards, within a week, we had formed a new partnership, which really made the Y become a hiring entity. So I was able to immediately bring 200 people back to work, and we deployed them to the food bank. We worked out with our teams how we were going to supervise and lead that. But for the course of a full year following that decision that Brian and I made, YMCA employees working for the YMCA, getting reimbursed, the Y getting reimbursed by the food bank with money that they had gotten from the county to staff up and meet the need and meet the growing need. We were able to keep a couple hundred of our employees employed and doing the work, but we were also able to stand up 26 food distribution sites and have staff in the food distribution network working on calls. I had aquatics directors who were working in the call center at the food bank. I had, executive directors working as admin in the food bank. Food bank needed people, and they needed people desperately, and we found a way to make that happen. We told that story. We told it very well. We were loud and we were proud about the partnership and about the work that we were doing and the role that the Y was playing as a distribution partner. You know what else we found out? We found out we're actually really good at that. It's a core competency that makes sense based on some of the other things that we've done, but absolutely showed up in spades while we were living through the pandemic and doing that work. So while we had people doing the work in the food distribution, we also knew that we had a population that was very near and dear to us, that was completely isolated, probably filled with fear, and that was our senior population. So our community care team also put together a team of volunteers and staff who started making phone calls to the 10,000 plus senior members that we had, just to check in. It was a well-care check-in. How are you? Do you need anything? For those that were sad or were being troubled, they got on an additional care list for additional calls or additional resources. We had some people show up at some seniors' homes to bring them food or to bring them some comfort. And we started introducing them to this whole new great concept called Zoom. And we had built out our virtual team. Was another element of our several verticals that I've described. The virtual team took this idea that we had about virtual classes and virtual experiences and turned it into a real thing. It was about a 3-year plan we had. Within 6 weeks, we stood up our first classes and experiences and made them available to our members. So our seniors had an opportunity to jump on a Zoom class or a Zoom conversation or a Zoom opportunity to be in community together. And they just embraced that and became our most prolific users of our virtual platform. So we were moving in all of these kinds of directions and waiting for that day when we would be able to open, which happened to be late June, early July. Once we opened, we were facing a couple of realities. One was the way in which we open is going to be very different and isn't going to be as enticing. And perhaps the market has changed. People's willingness, comfort, ability to get out and go into a gym and work out or be part of these classes was likely to be something different than it once was previously. So knowing that, we also moved another idea forward. And the idea was something that I'd been working on, really informed by time I'd spent with my millennial coach, which I engaged with about 3 to 4 years ago. Happens to be my daughter that was mentioned earlier, who lives in LA. And I had essentially asked her, I said, once or twice a month, let's spend an hour. And you talk to me about the kinds of things you're spending money on and your peers are spending money on and what you care about. And I've got this idea I want to just keep building with you. And in consultation and dialogue with her, we really kind of framed this idea of a different way to do membership that isn't about getting into a gym, buying a program, buying a service, but is really about caring about a cause and being part of it. And we called it impact membership. And so we started creating that and creating the ways in which we could encourage people to become impact members. Started first with all the people that were quitting. So as people were canceling their memberships because they couldn't use it, we began to invite them to quit to something, not from us. And that was to go from being a full facility member to being an impact member. The idea around our impact membership was that you get to be part of the why, you love the why, you have this fondness for it, and you get to be connected with each other and with the work that we're doing. You will hear some great stories about what we're doing in the YMCA. You'll get access to our virtual platform should you want to do it. And you can help us build out a whole series of experiences for our future impact members. Today we have 6,000 impact memberships. And we're very proud of the work we've done so far in that to really transform the way in which membership is understood. Now, I haven't talked a lot about it yet, but it's probably the thing that's most interesting to you is what's going on, what's happening with this whole, brand elevation. Because we're telling the stories, we're doing the work. You have to do great work, right, in order to tell great stories. And so doing really good work, and we're telling the stories well. And halfway through the 2-year period, we did our next brand study and we saw ourselves go from 3 to 6%. And then next time we did that study, we went from 6 to 9%. And in October of this year, we exceeded our goal, our 3-year goal of going from 3 to 10% by having 11% of the people who responded to the survey we did just this October name the Y as the organization that was doing the best job serving the community. And that was ahead of all of our peer groups. Prior we were maybe in 3rd place. We like to rank ourselves, so we may be in 3rd place, but that put us ahead of all of our peers. And then in the area of serving youth and serving families, well ahead of all of our peer groups, including the churches. And so we took that as in October as a signal that our mission and our purpose matter. The work that we were doing was the right work that people care about, that's impactful, that is great to hear about, and the way in which we've told the story. And in partnership with Love, we've been very aggressive, I think, and very creative and innovative around how we tell the story. So part of the marketing and branding piece of all of this was to make sure that we helped people understand that it's not just about a building. And the team noshed that around quite a bit and ultimately landed on an umbrella statement, not a place, a purpose, which we've just been really pushing and holding to and building all of our marketing and communication strategy off of that umbrella statement, not a place, a purpose. And it was done with some data, some feedback, because we weren't before, but we're now very active in the digital space. We're doing some significant work with automation around, you all know this better than I ever will, but the automation around digital outreach, the customization of messages to people based on their behavior in the digital world, and also getting analytics based on what they've clicked on or what they have expressed interest in through their behavior online. In addition, we launched a brand new website, which I guess, you can say, oh, well, we really like it, others really like it, but every Y conference I go to since we launched that website is take a look at the Houston Y's website. They got the messaging around cause better than anyone has ever done it in the country, and it is an example to be replicated in others. So I'm hearing that time and again from unsolicited peers and other people just reaching out and saying, how did you do that? Can we use some of your messaging? And so I think the adoration of peers is probably the stronger message than even the brand data that we got from all of that. But it really has been an extraordinary journey for us with that. And we're hopeful and optimistic about how it will help us. Now, if you think about the impact membership model, the whole design around it is, yes, to give people a place to quit to, yes, to make sure everybody who's participating in the Y experiences and believes themselves to be a member, but also there's a whole market out there we've never really connected with, and that's the 75% of the adult population that will never use a gym. Our number one reason from board members for why they're not a member of the Y has been, I won't use the gym, I have another gym I'm part of. Well, with introducing the impact membership, we took that excuse away from them, and it is now a requirement of association board members to be a member in some way, shape, or manner, either as a full facility member or as an impact member. We also have begun to reach out aggressively to that 75% of the population that always has thought of the Y and known the Y as that gym that I don't go to, or that club that might be outside of the reach of my economics. And we're giving them messaging that is enticing them. We're learning a lot about their interests, and we're beginning now to sell more and more each month memberships to people who really have no interest in being in a gym and aren't likely to use a program. And they're just resonating with the messaging that we're sending out there and the cause that we're lifting up and the things that we care about. And so along that journey, here we are. The hard part, the ugly side of this is that we've seen $50 million of operating revenue disappear. We've seen a good portion, some percentage of our membership come back, but it's different. And it's it was really fast and furious in April. That was a hopeful time, April, May, June. But then, since then, it's been a slow climb. And so we have brought back about 18,000 of the 25 or 30,000 membership units that left us. And so that feels good. But we still have a large hill to climb in order to be able to have membership revenue as it used to be what we'd like it to be. We're also facing the reality right now that, all the indications that I'm seeing from the market is that, you hear the studies from the gym industry that, I extrapolate from their data that about 25% of that market has gone away. The people that left us that were active users, 50% say they're coming back to the Y. So things like Peloton, things like just working out at home, people working at home has changed how childcare works for us. And so I can't be happier than to be able to say, we're at least out a little bit ahead of it, because we did all the work we did during the pandemic, both to change our behavior and what we're doing in community, but also to change the way and enhance the way in which we're telling the story and getting the message out about who we are and what we're doing. The Jay Chiat Award was fantastic. We've just been, the Y has been recognized for our innovation around this work in membership as part of the HBJ Innovations Awards. And we also got a chance to speak at a YMCA national conference on membership design and innovation. Right now, I've got probably 5 or 6 CEOs wanting to partner with us and figure out a way to implement a similar kind of membership model and messaging. But we're being really clear with everybody that this is about brand repositioning and resetting how people think of the Y and see the Y first and foremost. Without that, a new interesting category of membership, I think, has got limited capacity to really have a strong impact. My hope is that we'll have tens of thousands at some point impact members who are part of our YMCA, who come and go from whether they use programs or facilities, or maybe never use programs or facilities, but are just part of it and getting such a extraordinary experience by being part of it, or feel that sense of connection by being part of it in a way that makes a difference in their lives. So I'm gonna stop at this point, because I've put a lot out there, Amanda, and I see a few chats, so I'm suspecting that there may be some questions arising. And Kelly, you may have a couple of things that I didn't touch on that you'd like me to, or that I just brushed over that you'd like me to go a little deeper on. I'll just follow your lead from here.
Yeah, sure. No, that was great. Thank you so much, Steve. Really appreciate it. So we have gotten a couple questions. So one of them is, what demographic has shown the most growth since you started the Impact membership?
The exact demographic that we are looking to impact, millennials, basically the 20 to 35 range, which are the millennial population that is beginning to have families, and some of the younger. So it's trending younger and more towards families in terms of people that are resonating with our messaging and our work.
And is that true with the Impact membership?
Oh, in terms of the people that are actually joining, I don't know that answer, but I suspect it's similar. The people, because we can track the demographics of the people that are responding to our messaging. And ultimately, when you look at our overall membership, it's all lumped together. We are trending much higher in the millennial and family. So.
And then someone else asked, how do you keep from getting so overwhelmed? They said that you change your business model and all the populations, et cetera. How do you keep your good perspective?
Well, if you're talking about me personally, God, I'm glad I found meditation and mindfulness and exercise and conversation with family and colleagues. I have a couple of colleagues that I call once in a while. One of my colleagues who's with the Cincinnati Y, there were 5 or 6 times during the last 2 years where it's just like, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because no one's talking about this. Am I crazy? Are we crazy? And so those personal relationships that I've developed over time. But self-care and mindfulness is something that we talk about a lot and working on. We actually have a consultant who's running workshops for our staff team, as well as doing, she's doing this series of workshops that I'll be participating in next week, which is really designed around helping us understand and unpack how you grow through trauma. I think us acknowledging, yes, this has been extremely traumatic. Let's not pretend it hasn't been. Let's speak into it and be clear about that. I think has been helpful. And we're also, I've got a great team that has been through a fire together, and sometimes that makes you stronger. And that's absolutely what is continuing to happen, especially now that we're able to visit with each other and be in person together.
That's great. And do you think it's realistic, or is it unrealistic for the gyms to come back as it was in 2019? Like, do you think we're going to be able to get back to those levels, and how long will it take?
I'm not counting on it. I don't think it's realistic, and especially in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, 5, 6, 7 years, maybe sooner. People's memories sometimes are shorter than we believe them to be. But this whole idea that it's a little less safe, you can get sick, and the sickness you can get could be life-threatening, is changed the mindset. I think the way in which people work also, people working from home gives them much more flexibility to use their home fitness equipment and or walk in their neighborhood. I think the idea of being cooped up in a close quarters in a sweaty place where people are breathing hard, I think there's a large portion of the population is going to take a long time to get good with that. So I don't think it's realistic to expect it. We're not building our plan around it happening in the next 2 to 3 years anyways.
Mm-hmm. One thing that you didn't touch on is the Mackenzie Scott donation. Do you tell everybody what that's about? Because that was really exciting. It came at a really great time.
That's about, sometimes in meditation, we try to manifest things, bring them into our lives. And so I think through our behaviors, our actions, the stories we were telling, we caught the attention of philanthropist Mackenzie Scott. It was towards the end of 2020. We had $50 million of revenue had disappeared. We had burned through about $10 million of our cash reserves, and we're building the plan for the next year. And I got this phone call or this outreach from a consultant, and they had an anonymous donor who was an author and a philanthropist. That's all I was told, that, wanted to give a gift. They said there's 3 requirements. And then that's when my emotions went down. I'm like, oh, here we go. And the 3 requirements were: you can't tell anybody who it is until they're ready. You can't disclose the size of the gift until they're ready. And we'd like to pay it all up front. I'm like, we can meet all those requirements. And then they told me who it was, that I couldn't tell anybody else. And the name didn't resonate with me. And then they said it'll be $18 million. You okay with us depositing this in your account in the next 2 weeks? And I thought, either I'm getting punked in a really cruel way, or a miracle has happened for me and for our YMCA. It was one of those really special moments for me as a leader. I had to ask, I'm like, why us? What did we do? Why did we get so lucky? And they were very clear. They said, we don't disclose our process, and so we're not going to tell you, how you came up on our radar. But your community outreach work, which I've spoken to just a few minutes ago, and your equity work caught our attention. And you can let your board know that was the stuff that really caught our attention and got you on the radar and helped you to be included in this. And so it's a one-time thing. They're not allowing us to have any communication. We do a report once a year on our progress as a result of that gift, but it gave us confidence going into 2021 to just charge forward with these innovations, in particular the impact membership, the website investment that made that possible. I think we would not have had the confidence and had the cash reserves in place to give us the confidence to make that kind of an investment.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And you've been with the Y for 30 years. Have you gone through something like this before, like 9/11 or the crash of 2000? Like, have you gone through something like this before?
I would call all of those hiccups in compared to this. Nothing has forced us or caused us to have to close down everything. In fact, sitting around with colleagues in Y circles, if we were to imagine the biggest nightmare of our career, this is something that would cause us to have to shut down. Now, at the same time, when we're being creative and thoughtful and imagining, like, wouldn't it be neat if we got to close everything down for a year and restart it and really get some change implemented? You gotta be careful what you ask for, I guess, sometimes. But no, we've never gone through anything of this magnitude. I don't think anybody has, but certainly not.
Sure. Do you think any of your competitors will kind of follow your impact membership? Do you think anybody in that space will follow your lead and go into changing their model at all, just because you're saying there's a group of people that are not going to come back? What do you think everyone else in that space is going to do?
So if you're a for-profit corporate entity, you got a tough road to tell a story about cause and impact. So if they do, we're going to be out ahead, and we're going to be swimming in wide open blue ocean is the goal around this. I don't think so. I'm not worried or concerned about that, nor do I think it's even likely or plausible. But I've been wrong before, so it's possible. Who knows?
Sure. And then we've got lots of questions here. So Amanda, you just tell me, because these questions keep coming. How do you decide which locations to renovate for the Y?
Great question. And you mentioned 26. I didn't correct you then, but we now have 20 open. Okay. So of our 26 Ys that we had, we have 20 that are open. 2 properties have been sold. 1 was a lease that we got out of, and the other 3 are being reimagined before we start. So we have we start with the hard facts, which is what was the contribution margin or loss of all of our centers pre-COVID. And if a Y was not at least covering its operating costs, which we've had historically, the model has always been, we got some Ys that are really robust and they spin off a profit, and we can afford to run some Ys in some other neighborhoods that can't support themselves. And so we start with those facts and that data in front of us. And then also we're mindful about our equitable distribution of YMCA services. So we want to make sure that we weren't providing taking just the lens of profitability or lack of profitability or sustainability, but also thinking about it. So that's where we came to the, what are we going to keep open? And then in terms of renovation, you know, we looked at the whys that had been strong performers and said, okay, there's a couple of projects that if we do will give us a higher likelihood of getting back to or as close to pre-COVID numbers as possible. And so during the shutdown, we just charged forward with a couple of those, the whys that we already had on the target list to renovate. And we also, you know, in terms of what we do in and around whys, it was really driven by this belief that things aren't going to be the same coming out of this. And so we've done a fair amount of outdoor spaces, you know, the hypothesis being that there's a group of people that may never want to come back into a gym, but might be willing and interested in doing something outdoors. So we've got pavilions we've been building. And when this was, there was a Y already in the works to be built in Spring, Texas. We actually have our opening day on Saturday. It's called the Holcomb Y in Spring, Texas. And this Y will be first of its kind in the country, I think, a complete outdoor facility, pavilions, fields, really cool spaces we've created using containers. And it's meant to be programmatic based. And so we're using the impact membership model 100% there. So you pay your $25 as an impact member to be part of and come in and be part of the activities that are happening there. And then you pay a little extra if you want to take a class or have your kids in a youth program. Is it more of an a la carte kind of approach to that? But in response to the facilities, it's really based on where we think the greatest bang for the buck is going to come from, and somewhat where the highest need is. And also where the funding is. Sometimes funders let us know we really want to do this project here, and as long as it's in line with what our priorities are, we'll do that too.
Sure. And that's how they get the name on the building, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Sometimes. So speaking of childcare, tell me, you know, my kids have gone to the Y, whether it's summer camp, after school care. So tell me how that has changed. As like you mentioned, parents staying home, they're more hybrid schedules as parents. Tell me how that is from the in-facility or camps, et cetera.
Yeah. So I don't think I can count summer camps yet because 2021 we were just opening up, but we did well. We had good numbers, but we had to have a whole bunch of different protocols. Like we don't mix groups, and you know there was a lot of health and safety protocols that were there that make the experience different. But we had 5,000 to 6,000 youngsters in school-age childcare pre-COVID. We're in the 2,000 to 3,000 this year. And I like with membership, I think it's going to be a long slog to get back to the 5,000 or 6,000 because of that very notion. Plus we were so disrupted at the beginning of the school year with schools opening and then closing, and some having mask protocols, some not, and all that was happening around schools certainly impacted that part of our business. Our preschool program is about the same in terms of, but enrollment is lower. You know, we're not, you know, we might have had 130 at our Texas Medical Center, Child Care Center. I was there yesterday. We have 92. Still a great program, but not nearly the numbers that we had pre-COVID.
Mm-hmm. So kind of rounding out, so you've been in Houston for 3 years now. What's something that's one of your favorite things about Houston now?
Well, I come from Maine, so this time of year, for sure. This weather is unbelievable, and I don't mind the heat. I did pretty well with that. My wife and I have been pleasantly surprised with how much open green space nature is accessible. We live in the city, and within a 30-minute to a 1-hour drive, we can be in the wilderness. And we've just had a whole plethora of opportunities to explore and experience around state parks. You know, we were at Armand Bayou last weekend doing a kayak tour, a nature tour. And so I guess coming to Houston, I didn't imagine that would be as accessible to us, even right in the city with Buffalo Bayou, which is, you know, a mile from our home. It's just been mind-blowing and exciting.
That's awesome. And before I
And
turn
the
over,
the food is great, by the way.
Food.
I said in an interview earlier on, I said, what's advice for new people coming to the city? Make sure you've got an exercise routine in place because it's hard to find a bad meal.
yeah, exactly. That's where you become why.
Mhm.
But speaking of membership, Amanda mentioned our gala, and we always have auction items. And I will say one of the most popular auction items we have is a membership to the YMCA. A lot of bidding
Nice.
wars that we
Nice.
all to get that Y membership at the auction. So we appreciate when y'all like that.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to remind people that there's a Y in town.
Yes. Yeah. But Amanda, I'll turn it back over to you. But thank you so much, Steve. This was great. I really appreciate everybody for the great questions.
Yes, thank you so much. We have really enjoyed hearing from you today, and we are excited just to hear so much about the YMCA and to learn so much about everything you were sharing. So thank you so much for just your expertise and explaining to us everything that y'all been doing this year. We are excited for all the events coming up with Media Alliance, and I know that there were a lot of announcements today, so make sure that you get your voting in, and we are looking forward to more events with Media Alliance ahead. Gala is coming up in February, and we will see y'all in January at that webinar. Thanks to Lev for sponsoring today's webinar, and thank you to Stephen. We will see all of you soon.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.